Alright you nerds, the time is here. After about a year of using the Heretic Labs Article 1 Gen 2, I am ready to give a full review and thoughts on this system. But first, I need to thank my channel members. Why did you come here? Scott Anderson and DeusVolt4641. Thank you guys for being a channel member, and if you too want a shout out at the beginning of my videos, consider becoming a channel member. It's really cheap, you get a shout out, and you get to see my videos sooner than everybody else. Let me start off by saying Wolverine makes the most consistent, easiest to work on, and most reliable HPA systems on the market, and I love them as a company and the products they produce. That does not mean that what they make is perfect, but it's pretty darn close, so let's open up this box and see exactly how close to perfect the Article 1 Gen 2 is. The box is as gorgeous as it was with the Gen 1 models, and you get the same picture on the inside of a Speedsofter's Wet Dream in watercolor. In the box, you get the Article 1, of course. You also get their PTS EPM magazine with the empty magazine detection. Now, functionally, these magazines are awesome. However, I am not into the realism of having to hit my bolt catch after I reload, and the empty magazine switch on top of the magazine means it does not fit into an Odin. Very good magazines, but I just don't use them because they don't fit in my Odin speed loader. You get a little quick start manual, Heretic Labs patch, and replacement O-rings for the Inferno Gen 2 engine. And just take a look at the sleek sexiness that is the Article 1 Gen 2. The ultramarine blue color looks so damn good in my opinion, and the finish has held up with zero scratches over the past year. It uses the same Inferno Gen 2 engine as every other MTW, it's just colored black because it's the Heretic Labs version. The hop-up, bucking, barrel, and nub are also the same as every other MTW, and as always it produces consistent and flat-flying BBs. Has a carbon fiber outer barrel with a 14mm negative thread for tracers and a fully skeletonized body to keep the weight down and have you sprinting up and down the field all day long. They did change the feed tube on the Gen 2 models, and I really can't understand why. They moved away from the press fit plastic piece to a metal feed tube that uses 2 screws to secure it. Originally, I thought the whole hop-up was CNC, but it's only the feed tube that's metal. The hop-up is plastic, just like every other MTW. It uses the Heretic Labs board that can be tuned the same as a Spartan board via the trigger. The only difference on the Heretic model is it has a binary fire setting that can be placed in the full auto position. Now, I really do love this HPA system. It's light, it's accurate, and it's gorgeous. There is, however, one huge problem with it that I cannot seem to work out, and that is the power. At 120 PSI, I am getting about 1.1 joules out of this thing, and no matter what, I cannot get it higher. I also run a 68 CI 4500 PSI tank with the Wolverine regulator, and it easily lasts air all day. I've never had any issues with air efficiency or air consumption. I would say this is more air efficient than any Polar Star. The 7-inch Article 1 that I built gets 1.5 joules at the same PSI. Originally, I had thought that it was something to do with the upper, like maybe there was some kind of manufacturing error creating an air leak with the blue anodized upper. But after swapping out barrels, different lengths of barrels, different diameters barrels, buckings, nubs, I took the black Heretic Labs engine and popped it into that 7-inch build that I have, 1.1 joules. So I don't know why. I don't know if somehow I got one of the restricted airlines that go on the 14-inch versions inside of my Article 1, but for whatever reason, that engine maxes out at 1.1 joules. I did notice that if I overhopped the BBs basically so high that they're flying into the stratosphere, the power jumped considerably from 1.1 to like 1.4, 1.5 joules. But at that point, it's curving to the moon, so I'm not hitting anything anyway. Wolverine says that's normal, and I should be using 0.28s with a high hop-up setting. But if I turn the hop-up up anymore, it's overhopping, and at the proper hop, where it's flying flat, I'm getting 1.1 joules of force. It's not really enough to do anything. I did also set the dwell and disassemble the engine and reassemble the system many times, and I get the same result every single time. Now, Wolverine as a whole does want heavy BBs and high PSI. They all seem to work best with 0.32s, but for indoor, a lot of the times you have a restriction on how heavy of a BB you can run. For Elite Ops, it's 0.28, so I can't get heavier BBs to get more hop up, to get more power. You do get plenty decent range with the stock hop up, rubber, and bucking, even though you're only getting 1.1 joules, and you don't need to replace those until they wear out. I would say you can confidently hit torso sized targets at about 75 to 100 feet, However, due to the low power, the chance of someone calling that hit are small, so set it to binary and toast them. I'm joking. Don't break the rules on the field. Please don't do that. I didn't tell you to do that. Don't get me wrong. I really like this platform. I think it's a huge step for Speedsoft that something like this exists in an out-of-the-box option, but with Lancer Tactical partnering with Airtac, Polar Star, and AMP to make their new starter HPA system, it's getting hard to put the Article 1 at the top of the totem pole. I actually own that Polar Star with the Lancer and Airtac combo, and it shoots fairly straight, but it gets 1.4 joules on the same PSI that I run the Article 1 on, with the same diameter and length of barrel, making it perform better than the Article 1. However, the Article 1 still feels better in the hand and is a little more accurate. In practice, the Polar Star does get more eliminations. For example, if I shoot 5 BBs downrange at a target with the Article 1 and 4 out of 5 hit, but the guy doesn't feel it and moves at a line of sight, then I just don't get that elimination. If I put 5 BBs at a target with the Airtac Jack and only 2 out of 5 hit, but the target feels it and calls it, then the Polar Star is what I should pick. Even though the Article 1 was objectively more accurate, the Jack is what got the guy to call it and what got the elimination. Final thoughts, I would rate this an 8.5 out of 10 for the price of $864.20. And I feel that's really based on the accuracy, the simplicity, and the overall feel of the gun. If I could push this thing to 1.3 joule for indoor play, it would be a 10 out of 10 easily, but sadly that doesn't seem like an option. Now, would I recommend this HPA system? Yeah, I would recommend it, but I'm not going to say that it's the best option anymore. It's easy to work on, really consistent, but in my experience, it is hard capped at 1.1 joule. And as we all know with the indoor Speedsoft culture, that sometimes just isn't enough to get the hit called. There is a reason I continue to run this system though. It's just too much fun. It feels great in the hand, the trigger response is awesome, it looks amazing, and it's really just a joy to run around with. It for sure could be better, but I am not complaining too much. I did really like making this video for y'all, and I hope it gives you a little bit of insight if you're looking at picking up one of these systems. I'm sure you'll love it, and maybe yours won't have the weird joule problem that mine has. I love all of you, and as always, all glory goes to God, and I'll see you on the next video. Have yourself a wonderful day. Peace.